can't make a plane and see which way your arrows are going and find your tail. It follows your HA all the time. Okay. USA Today reports that 5%, and how do I write 5% as a decimal? 0.05. 5%. Yeah, I did. Yeah, okay, after I finish this, I'll give you your grade. Reports that 5% of U.S. adults have seen an extraterrestrial being. You decide to test this claim. There's your claim. So, 5%. P, it's the proportion, percent is equal to 0.05. This is the claim. Is this the HO or the HA? HO. What's the HA? So what tail test is this? 2. These little guys out here, this is the reject HO. If you don't know this, I suggest you write this down. Reject HO are the little tails of this. You only will allow that little small error, and this one happens to have two tails. Okay, so we test this claim. Here's your sample information. God bless you. We test 250 U.S. adults. We ask them if they've ever seen an extraterrestrial being. Of those surveyed, your sample, p-hat, says 8% said yes. At a level of significance of 0.01, is there enough evidence to reject, the word reject, this claim? The reject means you have an HO as a claim. So go back and make sure that your HO is your claim. Now, your formula, we're going to find your cutoff, your critical values. What you get?
Oh,
your critical values?
Negative 2.58 and 2.58.
Thank you. Okay, and we got that because we took this. Guys, I need the talking to stop. We took your level of significance and we had to share it between two tails. If we share it between two tails, we have to divide it in half. Makes sense, doesn't it? If it all belongs to one tail, inverse norm on that tail. If you have to go to two tails, you have to share it. So divide it in half. And then do your inverse norm on this. You can just put this right into inverse norm. And it will do it for you. So, your formula. Your sample minus your population over your square root of p times q divided by n. Again, you need parentheses in your numerator. You don't need them in your denominator because they're going to go under your square root sign. If your p is 0.05, what's your q? 0.95. Now, also, we still test for this. N times p, n times q, they have to be greater than or equal to 5. 5% is small, but the n in this case, 250, is large enough to cover it. If you only had 50, you'd have to worry about it. So, obviously, they're going to make these work so that the problems work for you. So we plug all those in, and what'd you get for your z-score?
2.18.
Good. And now we see, where does this fit? The 0 is here. This is a number line. 218 comes before 258, somewhere before it. It falls in the fail to reject H0. We could also test your p-val. If we look for a p-val, we take your 2.8, 2.18. We're not going to use this part of it. We're only going to use this part of it because you got an equal sign here. But because you have two tails, you can take the negative 2.18, find that area, and multiply it by 2, and test against that very small little level of significance. So chances are it would normally pass that, and yes, of course it passes it for this one. Once you find this, you go to your chart. You say your claim is your HO. to reject your H out. That means you have to go along with your H out. So you say, there is not enough evidence to reject the claim that the proportion of U.S. adults that have seen an extraterrestrial being is 5%. You need to put that claim in there. You need to say that out. That's your final statement after you do all this testing. Questions on any of this? Questions? The biggest thing I see, and I see this on the test, is you forget to divide that in half. If you're going to share it for 2 tails, divide it in half. Where it comes into play is when we multiply it by 2, is if you take your 2.18, let's work this one out, 2.18, I'm going to take the negative, and I get 0.0146, that sits here. That also has a chance of sitting here. That's where you multiply this by 2 to get your p-value. And then you can test against your level of significance. That's the time you multiply by 2 for your p-value. But if you're going to share that, you have to remember to divide. Okay? And we're going to hit one more, a more than, and then you should be good. The Pew Research Center claims that more than, greater than, here's the claim, 55% proportion of U.S. adults regularly watch a network news broadcast. You decide to test this claim, and here's your sample. You sample 425 adults, and out of those 425, you get a response of 255. At the level of significance of 0.05, is there enough evidence to support? Support tells me which one's going to be the claim. HA. So we start. My claim says P is greater than 55.55. This is the HA. There's no equal sign. What is its complement? Less than or equal to. What tail test do we have? Right, it always follows the HA. This little guy here is your reject H0. This is your fail to reject H0. Okay, we're going to find your cutoff. Is it going to be a positive or a negative? Positive. When you take your level of significance and you do inverse norm on this guy, you get a negative number. Just get the negative and turn it into the positive. It's on the right-hand side of your graph. Rather than doing the 1 minus that, just make it positive. So what's your cutoff going to be at? Good. 1.645, and you remembered the 3 decimals. Good. Now, that's where our critical value is. So now we test. We say Z with P hat minus P times Q. Our P is 0.55. What's your Q? 0.45. Now, we don't have a P hat. What do I do? We have no P hat. Good. I make one. My proportion. Part over whole. Point what? 0.26?
No, just 0.6.
Just 0.6. Thank you. Just make your proportion. Part over whole. There's your p hat. Yes.
Are we using the X in this equation or no?
If you use your calculator, you need the X. If the X in this part is how many of the 425 that said yes. So you will need to build your p hat with that. Your proportion from your sample is part over whole. So we build your p hat. We take your proportion from your population and we plug it in. That's not our concern right now. All right, so find your z-score. So your z-score should be 2.07. Now, here's another thing that I noticed on your test. It should come in the same side. It should come somewhere around this. I said the other day, like 95% of the problems pretty much work out. Like every once in a while they put something different in there, or they test on the wrong side. Once in a blue moon it falls on the opposite side. Some of you are getting values here and your cutoffs are here. So that tells you you probably put the wrong tail in there. So you have to look at this. You have to make sense out of this. The whole thing about hypothesis testing is it has a sequence to it. You got to kind of follow everything. You have to make it make sense to you guys. You have to think it out. I think some of you are just randomly throwing out, oh, I'm supposed to put this equation, I'm supposed to do this, without thinking what it's doing. So I know my 207 falls in here somewhere. So my decision is reject H0. Now, H0 is not your claim. Your claim is your HA. If you rejected this guy, are you going to support your claim? So, there is enough evidence to support the claim that more than 55% of U.S. adults regularly watch a network news broadcast. That's your final statement. That's how you interpret this whole thing. Good? Okay, one more. Do try it yourself, number 3. I need everybody to do it because I'm going to walk around. So what you have. So, here's my claim. Come on, how do I write my claim? Good. So this is, guys, this is your page. Mara, what's your Q? Good. So is this the HA or the HO? HA. So what direction is my tail going in? Right. This guy here, reject H0. Now, I need to write its complement. Less than or equal to. Is the HO. Okay. Cypress, what's your critical value, your cutoff? 2.3? 2.33? Everybody okay with 2.33? Yep. Okay, inverse norm, 0.01. Okay, this is a small error. This is a small little space out here. Can you support this claim? Is our claim our HA? Yeah. So make sure that this works. Okay, let's find our critical value. And again, we do our N times P. We do all that. We should be pretty good because your N is 75 and your X that said yes was 33. So what's my P hat? Alyssa, what's my P hat? 0.44 because you got that saying 33 over 75, right? If you use your calculator, this is perfect because you need your X. So you put your X in and you put your N in. If you're using your formula, you need to have your P hat. Again, it's always the sample minus the population, and then it's your 0.44 times 0.38, sorry. 0.38 times 0.62 divided by, keep this all under your square root, 75. Remember to put parentheses around your numerator. So Joe, what's your Z-score?
Z-score is 1.07.
1.07. So we check to see where this falls, and it falls over here somewhere. Here's your 0. It falls in the fail to reject H0. Now, if we want to do our p-val, if you use your calculator, it gives you your p-val. It gives you your p-hat, and then it says p. P is your p-val, your area under the curve that is associated with this Z-score. Since your tail is to the right, you have to do the 1 minus that. It can't be more than 50%. So either do the 1.07, find your area, subtract it from 1, or do the negative 1.07. If you look up the negative 1.07, it gives you the area and just the tail. So the negative 1.07 is 0.1423. If you test your p-val against your level of significance, you still get the same decision. To interpret, go up to your chart. If your claim is your HA and you fail to reject your H sub 0, means you can't support your claim, there's not enough evidence to support the claim that the 38%, more than 38% regularly watch a news broadcast system program. Okay?
Do we have to know how to do the p-value?
You have to know you have to know the p-val too. The p-val is the area under your curve for the z-score.
So we're gonna have to do it both ways?
Same as you did with the z. Before, the only one we needed the tape that we needed your calculator for was the t, because we can't find the area for the t. With the z-score, we just look up in your table. We find your area related to your z-score. If it's a right tail test, make sure you use the smaller part of it. A left tail test, use the other side. What was your question? So how did we get to 0.44? Part over whole. X over N.